Hello. Alright, this is the hat we're going to make in this video. This one right here was actually done on a 1/2 inch 44 peg child hat loom from Cindy Woodcraft. And I absolutely love how this turned out. Now for the one for the video, I'm actually going to be using the same size loom, but in the 5/8 inch gauge instead of the 1/2 inch gauge. It will actually give it 35 pegs, which is going to be an odd number, so there will be kind of a seam up the back of the hat, but that'll be fine. Now to get started, I'm using, this yarn has, I don't know if you can see in the video, but it has like a tinsel running through it, and it's just a really fine yarn. And then I'm using just a regular worsted weight. That one's just so it's like a green tinsel can hit the light. We are going to start with doing a chain cast on. If you're unfamiliar with how to do a chain cast on, the PDF and in the description will both have direct links for how to do the chain cast on. I'll do a couple pegs here. Chain cast on all the way around. Okay, chain cast on is done. So what we're going to do first, if you look, you can tell there's a little bit of a brim area. If I stretch it, once it's on the head and stretched out, you can see that's when it's really noticeable. And the brim is just the moss stitch. Now how you do the moss stitch, which we will E-wrap a row, E-wrap a peg, then we are going to purl a peg. Now your cast on may be a little tight. We're going to E-wrap, and we will purl. E-wrap, purl. You do this all the way until you get back to your first peg. Okay, so we went all the way around, E-wrap one, purl one, E-wrap one, purl one, just like you would for like a single rib. Now, this is an odd number peg loom. So I wanted to use an odd numbered peg loom so that you'll see how it will change up the appearance, because your last two here are both going to be E-wraps. So there's going to be a stripe going up the side of the hat. This is our last one, so we're going to go ahead and knit that off. And what you'll do is you'll go all the way around, take all of the E-wraps, bottom over the top, just like you normally would, which will be every other peg. When you get back to the beginning, I'll show you how to do the second part of the moss stitch. Alright, now every peg has just one loop on it. The second part of the moss stitch is you reverse the stitch. What that means is the first time around we E-wrapped one, purled one, E-wrapped one, purled one. So now instead, the pegs that were E-wrapped, we will purl. So we will purl one, E-wrap one, purl one, all the way around. And that is what will give you your moss stitch, which I'll show you a close-up right there. That is what gives you the moss stitch. As you can see, the stitches are opposite, so that would have been like an E-wrap, that would have been a purl, E-wrap, you know, or however. You're going to do 10 rows of moss stitch. So one row will be E-wrap, purl, then row 2 will be purl, E-wrap, row 3, E-wrap, purl, row 4, purl, E-wrap. Do that until you have 10 rows done. At this point, you have your 10 rows of moss stitch done. So you have your lovely little brim. Now we need to do the body. And I'll do a zoom in on that. The body is actually a double moss stitch. And what that means is where the moss stitch is, for one row you E-wrap, purl, then the next row you reverse it to where you purl, E-wrap. For the double, you do 2 rows of E-wrap, purl, and then the next 2 after that will be purl, E-wrap, purl, E-wrap. So wherever you're at, let me see what my last stitch was. My last stitch was a purl stitch right here. So I will do 2 rows of E-wrap purl. Then I do 2 rows of purl and E-wrap. You're going to alternate these back and forth, counting every single row, and you're going to do 30 rows altogether. When you get your 30 rows of the body done, this is about what it'll look like. Of course, it'll vary from the loom you use and the yarn you use. This is what we're looking at. At this point, do 2 rows of just E-wrap. You do 1 full round, take the bottom over the top, then do a second, take the bottom over the top. Once you have the 2 rows of E-wrap done, you're just going to take the working yarn and just wrap it around the entire loom around 3 times. The cast off that I'm going to do is the flat top pull string bind off, which if you're unfamiliar with it, what you do is you take that working yarn, pull through 2 pegs, then you take that yarn and put it behind the next 2, then you pull it through the 2 after that, and behind the next 2, and you do this until you get all the way back to the beginning. Okay, so you get back to your start. Due to the number of pegs on this loom, you start your black, you do 2, skip 2, do 2, skip 2. When you get back, you're going to have 1 extra open. You got your 2 right here. I'm actually going to go behind all 3 of these. And then you're just going around the loom doing the exact same thing as the first round, but you're going to pick up all the stitches you didn't do that first time. Oops. As you can see, that one's done, that one's done. You skip behind those 2, which that one's already done. You're going to do these ones. And you do that until you're back to your beginning again. Back at your beginning again. Of course, you had that 1 extra, which you went through that. This point, all we do is we're going to take everything off the loom. So every single peg off the loom. This is kind of what you got. So now, remember you wrap that yarn around twice, so you're actually going to have like 2 layers that will tighten up. This top one will tighten first, but you got to kind of keep stretching that out, and you'll see the second loop starting to tighten up too. So what I do is I get all that pulled down pretty good, and then pull it through the bottom to completely tighten and finish up. So you want to make sure you didn't have any extra loops up here, which we didn't. We got that all tightened up. Then of course you would knot it and weave your ends in. But alright, here you go. Both done on essentially the same loom, just a different gauge. So they had different number of pegs. This one was a 1/2 inch gauge. You see how like tight and bubbly it is. This was the 5/8 inch, and it still looks really nice. Now, this was done with a worsted weight yarn. This one was too, but I did run, I don't know what that would be, maybe a sport weight. It's really thin yarn with it just because it had a tinsel in it. So there really isn't a huge difference. To feel it though, this one you can definitely tell feels a lot thicker. And also, let's find that spot right here. See, here's our starting string where it didn't match up quite right, where you had 2 pegs that'd be the same each row, your first peg and your last peg, just due to the number of pegs. You actually look, I really don't even see a difference in the stitch itself at that point. Like, I had to sit and look around for a minute just to make sure, but it's just due to the nature of that stitch, this is a completely seamless stitch whether or not you have an even or an odd number of pegs on your loom. So that's really, really cool to know when you are going to make projects. Okay, everybody, that's all I really have for this. I do hope you enjoyed my video. Any questions or comments, please leave in the comment section below. Of course, the written out PDF with the written directions and graphs and photos and everything is in the description as well, with some individual links to help you out if there's different parts of the stitches that you wanted to review. Again, thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.